Hi there, my name is Jessica Smith and I am the founder of Savant Recruitment. Thank you and welcome to my video in regards to setting up a talent acquisition process. I've been a recruiter for the last 11 years, mainly in the tech space, and I've specialized in helping startups make their most important hires on their engineering teams right across the software development lifecycle. I've seen everything go right with a great process and a lot of things go wrong, and there's a lot of room for improvement. So I created this document, and I wanted to create this video for founders and hiring managers that are currently at a stage where they are looking to scale their organization, and how exactly to do that going by best practices. So, with that, here is how to build a foolproof talent acquisition process for your startup. So, when we talk about best practices, here are some things that I need you to kind of keep in mind. The goal for your organization should be to make this hire in less than 30 days. Any longer than that, you are wasting time in the market, and I'll tell you why. The standard time it should take to make a successful hire for the whole entire process to happen with the interview stage and onboarding and whatnot should be 30 to 42 days. The offer should actually be in the candidate's hand by the 30th day, if not sooner. And with that, anything longer than 30 days, if you are talking to a recruitment agency, they're going to ask you these questions of how long your actual job has been open for. And what they're really looking for is to determine the urgency behind this hire. Because if it's not urgent, they're not going to want to touch it. And they're not going to want to work with you at this point. So with that, always remember whether it's sales or recruitment, time kills all deals. This is one of the biggest industry sayings right across the board. So your hiring manager should only be taking 24 to 48 hours to give feedback on candidates when running a full talent acquisition process. That is the rule of thumb, whether you're working with a recruitment agency and they're responsible for giving that feedback to the recruitment agency, or whether or not you're working with the candidate. And the reason why is candidates need to know where they stand in the process, whether it's a yes or a no. I know sometimes it's hard to give feedback, and especially when it is negative feedback, but it doesn't have to be anything that puts your company at risk. It can just be a yes or no answer. It's better to have that than have no answer at all, because candidates, especially if they're doing projects or assignments or long testing assignments with your company, they may get a little bit upset if they don't hear anything back, right? And so just always make sure that there's a pulse there, because it's going to help protect your brand in the market and continue helping you hire in the long run. So this is super, super important. So here's what we'll cover. Deciphering if it's the right time to make a hire, when to decide to work with a recruitment agency, the process that you'll need to implement to make sure that you don't lose out on some of the top talent or the creme de la creme, getting prepped to make this hire, so onboarding, and this is super, super important. This is actually one of the most important parts to hiring new talent into your organization before the recruitment process, and the first 30 days of having your candidate on board and leaning on your recruiter as a true talent partner to your business, which is something a lot of startups unfortunately fail at. But with Savant Recruitment, I'm here as a technical talent partner to you and the team, so you won't have to worry about that. Okay, so before we get started, you need to know how much it's truly costing your business to not have this candidate on board. A lot of founders and startup owners fail to realize that they're actually losing money by not having a specific person on board. And there are certain reasons, behind that. But between the open desk, the cubicle, the office, parked truck, if you have that, it's representing money lost every day. And there's an actual calculation for this. But yeah, each day, a chair remains unfilled, customers go uncalled, questions go unanswered, orders go untaken. And there's so many numerous intangibles that go with the full cost calculation, which make it almost impossible to assign the exact cost of your open position. But I have a link. So I have a link from Career Builder that you'll be able to open up here, and it's going to allow you to calculate in real time how much money that you're losing by not having the ideal candidate that you're looking for. So I'm just going to leave that here and pop it down in the links below. So one of the first things is, how are you going to decipher if it's the right time to make a hire? So the way you decipher this is, if your present employees are overworked and potentially taking a leave of absence due to burnout, clients are being rejected. So your own clients that you work with, they're being rejected because the team's workload that you work with is already full. If you're missing out on business opportunities, that's just bad business altogether. Business expansion plans. So, whether you get new funding or whatever the case is, you've had a huge year, you brought on some more clients, you're looking to expand maybe in another continent. That is something to consider. The quality of work is decreasing, so you may be losing customers or missing targets. This is a huge one for a lot of founders. And then your bottom line is impacted. So that's when you need to start looking at, okay, what makes sense for the business, and is it time right now? And also, the headache, because you're wearing many hats in the organization. Sometimes you can't do it all, right? And so sometimes you need to go to outside to get some help. So that's what we're here for. We're here to help you find the right hire. And so to do this, tracking per head revenue generated by employees can provide powerful data points to assess whether improvements need to be made in performance, whether it means hiring new talent in order to maximize additional returns, keeping an eye on stagnation and bottlenecking. It's going to help you identify any potential weak spots and plan for sustainable development over the time that hopefully leads to a profitable future. Okay, so when to hire a recruitment agency. So here's a rule of thumb. When agencies take you on as a client, you need to be in a stage of distress. That's a founder, that's a hiring manager. What we like to hear is that your department, and it's unfortunate, but this is what we need to hear to work with you. Your department basically needs to be burning down, or your investor might be, cracking the whip on you guys, and you need to make this hire. So some examples of, I know I just mentioned some, but examples of when the right time would be to engage an agency would be, if you don't make this hire in the next 30 days, the engineering department will fall apart. You're about to lose staff, or you're missing your metrics. If you're missing your targets and your product or service won't be released on time, that's a huge one. And then investors being upset with you because, again, you're going to miss your targets, and your forecasts and your key performance indicators are just overwhelming, and you're just not hitting them. If you are not under any sort of pressure at all to make this hire, you should not be engaging with a recruitment agency at all whatsoever. When you think of recruitment agency, you think of, this is an emergency. I need to get this off my plate and someone else to handle this so that we can get this hire made on time and get back to the business. So this is really, really, really important for all founders, all hiring managers. I know I'm saying everything's important, but this one specifically, this is so key. And a lot of founders and CEOs and hiring managers, they don't know this, but when you're running a hiring process, don't do it when hiring managers have their vacations booked. That's not the ideal time to be making a hire and should be avoided at all costs. You're going to set yourself up for disappointment because you're going to prolong the process unnecessarily with people going on vacation, interviews not being able to happen. I've seen startup founders, they've said, oh, we're going to put another consultant in replace of the hiring manager. and things just start getting all muddled. So do not start a hiring process if hiring managers are going on vacation, executives are going on vacation, and you're part of the key to making that hire happen. And summer vacations, just don't do it. Also, keeping candidates warm. Gone are the days of that. So this is a surefire way to miss out on talent and lose all the work that you've done. The competition for talent is too hot in the market, despite, I know we're in a stage of layoffs right now, but the competition is hot. So candidates always have something else on the go. And as a recruiter, I'm always asking candidates, what else do you have on the go? And they'll openly tell me, I have 2 other opportunities or 3 opportunities. And I always have to ask them, what part of the process are you in? Because it gives me leverage to tell the companies that I work with, they either need to hurry up in their process or we're potentially going to lose the candidate. And if that's something that they would be okay with, then we have to go back to the drawing board. But it's an exercise of utility, really, if things aren't happening. So I use that information to kind of give that feedback back to hiring managers and the founders and CEOs. Okay, so when we look at process, when you start this off, how we usually do it is you build out the job description. So that's the first thing. Obviously, getting the role approved, and making sure that there is an actual need for a new hire on board and that you can afford the new hire. But all of that after we're starting with building out a job description. So what you want to do is give candidates a taste of utilizing a short summary of what it's like to work for your company, mission, values, responsibilities for the role. And so what I've been seeing that has been really compelling in the market, because talent, they're a little bit skeptical right now about the leadership that they're working with. So what I've seen work is there are companies right now that are discussing what kind of leader the candidate will be working under, and what the candidate should expect when it comes to career progression or trajectory. And they put that right in the job description. That ultimately, when you're giving all that information up front, is going to attract more candidates to your company because they have that information up front. Understand the must-haves and the nice-to-haves. So this is super important. When building this out, sometimes you're going to need to compromise on the must-haves because at times the market is just not delivering all the must-haves. So ideally for a good candidate, you'll be looking for someone who's an 80% fit. It is very rare to find a 100% fit. So understand this, especially when engaging with an agency. We're going to use data-backed approaches to show you what we're going to be able to deliver in the market and what the market is telling us. We will be reporting on that, but at the same time too, when it comes to expectations, you need to be able to be aligned with what the market is delivering, and kind of pivot around that to be able to make sure that you're going to make this hire within 30 days. There's no such thing as the perfect hire. So yeah. And then split your process up into 2 to 3 interviews maximum. So any more than this is unnecessary, unless you're making an executive level hire. So for a junior, intermediate, or senior level hire, don't go any further than 3 interviews because you're going to lose the candidate interest to a company who has a shorter process, and know what they want. So for instance, if you engage with someone like myself, I would actually take on the first interview, and that would be a recruiter call screening. And I would be asking various questions to fluff out whether or not the candidate has the technical skills, the personality, they have the right fit, and they can present themselves in that way. And I'll ask specific questions and knockout questions as well to see if the candidate can actually answer these questions, if the candidate would potentially be good in a testing process, and so forth. Once that's done, I will then present the candidate to go to the second interview with the hiring manager. And so what that interview should be is the hiring manager gets to know the candidate. And then it would be an interview mixed with technical questions or some sort of test. And then your third interview. So all decision makers need to be in the third interview. And so a lot of the advice that I give is that if you have too many cooks in the kitchen, it's actually going to muddle the process. So really and truly, when you're making new hires for the company, it should only be the hiring manager and the founder or CEO. And that's basically it. Any more than that, like if there's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 more people, it's just not going to work because there's too many opinions coming into what the perfect hire should be, and it will screw up your hiring process. And then I wouldn't want to see, a client later on, like 60 days later on down the line, saying, hey, yeah, we really screwed that up. Can you still see if that candidate is interested in working with us? And that candidate is long gone, just because that's a process that could have been taken away. So this one, okay. So for this, when it comes to making an offer, do not go in and lowball a candidate on the salary. If you know what they're looking for up front. So 95% of the time, I see this backfire on founders and hiring managers that, they know up front, and especially working with me, you'll know up front what a candidate is specifically seeking, and, if it's a range or if it's a straight base salary plus whatever they're looking for in vacation and benefits and whatever the package is, right? The founders and hiring managers that go in and lowball candidates to save a few bucks end up shooting themselves in the foot. You have the potential to lose a candidate, and suggesting anything lower than their ask is actually, it would be considered an insult to a lot of them. So it's your job to work with the recruiter to come up with a fair and equitable offer that works for both parties and not just you, the company. Because if you decide to go in and lowball the candidate, or, decide, hey, like we're going to try and pay him, $5,000, or pay them $5,000 less than what they asked, just to save, a couple bucks, and we've already done this whole entire process, it's going to turn the candidate off, and chances are they will probably decline your offer. Unfortunately, I've seen it numerous times, and it's just there's always that one hiring manager that wants to save a company, a couple bucks, and it turns out to backfire. Okay. Onboarding. So did you know that 43% of new hires don't make it to their first 90 days? And at the beginning of this video, I talked about how onboarding is one of the most important processes to this whole thing. Like without onboarding, your talent acquisition process just doesn't come together. Like it will fall apart. So what I've done, and if you'd like to ask for this, or I can put a version of this in the comments down below, I've created a 5-step guide to help you create the best employee onboarding process ever. So I used to be an onboarding manager for another startup before I went out and started Savant Recruitment. And we created a foolproof onboarding guide that worked every single time. We didn't have any fall-offs within the first 30 days of making a hire. So this is going to make your new hires feel valued. You want them to feel like a team member. And you also want to make sure that the money that you just spent, especially if you engage with a recruitment agency, doesn't go to waste by losing a candidate. And then we're at the end here. So 30 days in with your new hire. So again, this is super important. Make sure that you're keeping in touch with the recruiter to let them know how this new hire is doing. And make sure you assign the hiring manager to have consistent one-on-ones with the new hire on a weekly basis, just to get a pulse point. And always just keep checking in with this hire to get a pulse check on how they are feeling about joining the company. If you liked this information that I just shared with you here, I will attach some more information and my Calendly below. And if you have interest in booking a meeting with Savant Recruitment and how we can help you and your company build out a process or hire the talent that you need within the technical software development lifecycle space, please let me know. And yeah, again, my Calendly will be LinkedIn below, and I look forward to meeting you. All right, thanks so much. Bye.